think there were four reasons really. The first, the passage of time, where they talk about time being a great healer. It certainly doesn't cure everything, but it does create a distance. And so in the initial phases, after you've lost someone, everything feels far too raw and far too acute. But as time passes, you do become less connected to those feelings. And it's a strange thing in modern society that we tend to feel embarrassed or ashamed about feelings that are very strong. So that passage of time has allowed me to feel I can now own and let it belong to me. So that was probably the first one. The second was my professional life, that I didn't want my personal life to be entwined with my professional life, particularly because not only I, but both of us had worked in developing that professional area of work. So, well, now once again I'm mostly retired from that. It's easier to do it. The need to spread awareness, I think. Quite by chance, people have occasionally asked about the book, and when I've shared it with them, they've said other people ought to be able to read it. That because it's written from someone who's in the process, rather than someone commissioning a report and writing objectively about the process of grief, it gives a completely different picture, and that picture shows where the shortcomings possibly are in end-of-life care and in support for the bereaved. So those would be the main things. I thought I was. I am having, as part of my master's degree, done a module on senescence and aging and grieving, particularly the wonderful work of Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I thought intellectually I did understand what I would need to expect, and that therefore things like counselling wouldn't be particularly helpful because I already knew what those feelings were about. So that was one thing, and then I had also experienced two losses quite early in my adult life, my mother when I was 21 and my father when I was 38. And I already knew that the process is different each and every time, that death has an extraordinary capacity to surprise us. It's never what you expect. So I thought that had helped to provide a background. The fact that my husband was many years older, there was a big age gap, and so we had always known that the probability was that he would go first. And so that for many years had been a sort of background theme. And then, because he had such an awful last 18 months, like many families who are in that stage of watching someone suffer, part of you wants that suffering to end and the other part dreads it. So those three things had made me feel I somehow, on firmer ground than I probably was. But what I didn't expect was the enormity of the absence that is left behind. I describe it as being like an amputation because that's what it feels like. And I didn't expect the shift that takes place in social relationships. That when you've been together with someone for quite a long time, or you've worked together in a partnership, you are seen as a unit. And when half that unit is no longer there, you are perceived very differently. And quite bizarrely, I didn't feel like a widow, and I didn't want to be seen as a widow. I didn't want to be this poor, pathetic thing. But you become socially untidy. People are embarrassed, I think. They're uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And so they unwittingly avoid you, and you find you are no longer included in the things that have been a part of your normal life. So there are two facets, I would say, to loss. One is the loss of the person, and the other is the loss of the way of life that you had, in my case, for 26 years, so for quite a long period of time. And those two parts now I was not ready for. lost someone who you've had a very close emotional and or intellectual relationship with, and we were lucky enough to have both, the only person who could understand what their loss means to you is them. And they are the one that isn't there. So even your own family, who, you know, my sons and daughter loved him very much and missed him, the nature of their missing is different from yours because it's unique to each and every relationship. So the only one I wanted to tell was him. And it was a few weeks after he died. I used to sit down with my glass of wine and my meal in the evening. And after a while I thought, I'm going to start writing to you. It's a way of me being able to express in a way that I couldn't to anyone else what now is like. So it was quite simple, really. Initially, all you think about is what you've lost, and you seek it everywhere. I think in physical things, in photographs, in the smell of things, in stories that you used to share and you continue to try and share with those who knew them. And that's an essential part of the process, but it doesn't help you to heal. And there comes a time, and I think the time is different for everyone, where gradually some of those things that you seek externally become internalized. I describe them as being embodied, really. They become part of you, sort of physically and emotionally. And there is no longer the same need to look outside and find nothing is there, because you find what you're looking for is still there, but it's different. And in that way, it's not that you heal and forget, it's that you heal and you take what was best forward with you, I think, or at least that was my experience. When you or someone you love is very ill or near the end, what you would like to believe is that there will be people around who can care for you, who can give you pain relief, who can make you comfortable and ease the passage of whatever is going to happen. And in order to do that, you will have adequate support at hand. Now, I know our experience was not necessarily representative of everyone else's, but it wasn't a good one. And although the National Health Service plays lip service to palliative care, our experience was of a system that is reactive rather than proactive, that there was absolutely no coordination of care in the community whatsoever. And to give you an example of how it sort of played out, we had, was it 16, or the other way around? I think it was 16 emergency ambulance admissions in an 18-month period into hospital. Because every time something went wrong, it went from being chronic to acute to a crisis in a very short period of time, sometimes an hour. And there wasn't time to ring district nurse services, sometimes it was a weekend, and the process of dying is not a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week process. It needs people available at all times, really. So that difference between needing a proactive service that monitored, reviewed, had regular visits, had things in place, versus the reactive service, which was that you had to request everything, and quite often when it came it was too late, was one of the major issues that we experienced. There should have been a community matron who was in charge of coordination. She was off on maternity leave or something for 6 months, and we happened to fall within that period. So nobody coordinated GP, district nursing services, social services, and so on. The delay in receiving a reply to requests, sometimes if you rang district nurses and it was at a handover time, they wouldn't ring back for 2 or 3 hours. that's too long if you have a blocked catheter. You can't wait that long. One example some years earlier was it took 14 weeks for the rapid response pain relief team to contact us. 14 weeks when you are in severe pain is certainly not good enough. And what has become forgotten by the modern system, whether it's shortage of money, whether it's lack of resources or whatever, is that when there is anxiety, when there is fear, pain is exacerbated and recovery, if the recovery is possible, is delayed. That those psychological factors play into how the physical deterioration is or isn't taking place. So as far as the sort of coordination of services is concerned, if we went back 50 years or so, every hospital used to have what was called a hospital almoner. And the almoner's role was to go and assess a patient at the time of discharge, see whether they needed to go into a convalescent home, which were available in those days. They were a very good idea. Or what support was needed in terms of district nurses, home helps, and so on. And that role was taken over by, I just need to look up exactly what it was taken over, by what are called care coordinators these days. So people still get assessed. And that should go through to the GP, the local nurse, or the social worker. But the trouble is that those services are not necessarily joined up once there is a discharge. And often there's a delay so that you can be discharged on a Friday morning and the GP doesn't receive the information until Tuesday morning. So you've had 3 or 4 days without any support whatsoever with someone who is quite seriously ill. So that sort of lack of joined up services, the fact that incurable illnesses, often those illnesses are multifactorial, so that one specialist department is not dealing with that illness or that person alone, but there isn't a connection between those departments even within the same hospital. So after Peter died, I wrote up some of the issues that we had experienced, not as a complaint, but because I wanted to make things better in the future. And I suggested that what every hospital needed was on their electronic notes a human body at the top of each page with all the organ systems shown, and if a patient was being treated by urology, then the kidney would light up, or the bladder. If they were being treated by cardiology, then the heart would light up, so that if a patient was going from one department to another, the consultant could immediately see who else in that hospital was actually treating that patient as well. I don't think it's happened yet, and that was 12 years ago. But what tended to happen was after each admission, you have to be reassessed as from the beginning again. So you might have had a care package when you were discharged. Somebody might have to go in for an emergency admission, only be in for 24 hours, but you've lost that care package when they come home. They have to be completely reassessed. You'll have a new team sometimes of carers coming in for 2 weeks, which is the emergency care, and then they have to be reassessed again for the ongoing care. So you can imagine 16 admissions in 18 months, how many reassessments, how much time is wasted, how much money is wasted, but more importantly, how there's no continuity of care for the patient or the family. So that was a major issue, plus the fact that families are not sufficiently, adequately informed about what is available to help. So one of the wonderful services that is available are the Marie Curie nurses. And Marie Curie nurses, they are free at the point of care, they're specialised in end-of-life care, and they provide tailored support in the home, including night visits so that you can sleep if you're one of the carers. We were repeatedly told that the end was some time off, so I didn't request that until 10 days before he went into the hospice. So I only had 3 overnight helps, really. And had I known, I would have asked weeks before. And they were helpful not just in allowing me to have a good night's sleep, but 2 of them actually supported me in saying, this cannot continue, he needs to go into a hospice. Whereas the GP didn't recognise that because he only saw him when he was asked to come in for a particular issue, and he was able to rally to be sociable when he saw his doctor, and so he appeared to be much better than he actually was. So that whole process of knowing what's available, that the duration, and being able to predict when end of life is going to come is also incredibly difficult. It can look as if it's months away, but equally it can be days away, and the system is not set up to really provide the support that's needed if it comes unexpectedly. It's there to diagnose, treat and discharge, and once discharged you cease to exist until you once again request that you need some help. And that the terminally ill just don't fit into this system of needing regular monitoring, review and flexible care, and I would say those were the things that needed to become hallmarks of, I think the palliative care system does it, but there's a gap between hospital care, GP services and actually having the access to palliative care. They were patient and family led from the very beginning. And the whole of the attitude was one of can do, and we will do whatever is possible. If there's a problem, we will find a solution. And tiny little things, like I remember the day that he was admitted, it was after the regular meal time, and the chef came in and said, "Can I cook you an omelette? Is there something I can make? Is there anything that you would like?" Just small things that suddenly make you feel as if you are more in your own home than in somewhere that is actually going to see you out. It's very, they seem to manage this, these poles of responsibility extremely well. That their entire purpose is to provide comfort and to provide relief, and that extends beyond the patient to the family as well. And to afford dignity to both as well, which the hospital system just cannot always do. It's not that people don't want to, it's just not set up to be able to do it. So for example, the last 7 days after they'd withdrawn his regular treatment and he was simply on palliative medicine and he was in and out of a coma, they every morning would come and blanket bath him from head to toe, change the sheets, brush his hair, put on aftershave, talk to him as if he was with us all. And that attention to personal matters really, in every sense, makes a huge difference. And I think it's just an illustration of how they provide the best end-of-life care that most of us could hope for. Recognition, I think, that the bereaved are, in a sense, invisible patients after the person has died. Because whereas the household will have been receiving regular medical attendance, more equipment than I care ever to remember, once death has happened, the people left behind have nobody. Nobody comes to visit them. That all that care that's been wrapped around the patient, albeit not necessarily the best care, disappears overnight. So that there needs to be both societal and professional recognition that recovery for the living after the dead is necessary, and in my view is akin to the process of physical healing. So what I wanted to do was actually just spend a few minutes going through what is recognised as a process of physical healing, so we can see how they perhaps lie alongside each other. So physical healing takes place through recognised phases, although the duration and intensity of each phase will vary according to the tissue type involved. rather like the nature of grief being specific to the relationship. So first of all, in physical healing, there is an inflammatory phase which immediately follows the injury, and it lasts from 0 to about 6 days. When first of all there might be numbness and pain is expected, and there is some degree of swelling and inflammation. And that period generally requires protection of the damaged site while cells that promote healing enter the area. And this phase following physical injury, as I've mentioned, usually lasts up to 6 days. In bereavement terms, this is like the initial phase of numb and raw disbelief, those first few days where you feel there's something wrong with you because you don't feel that something has happened, and that's before realization sets in. In physical healing, you then enter what's called a proliferation phase that starts from anything between 4 and 6 days and goes on to about 24 days, when different types of healing cells surround damaged tissue and they start to replace damaged tissue with new immature layers of tissue. So this is the sort of process of starting to create a new layer around the area of injury. But the trouble with the emotional issues surrounding bereavement is that that is just the period where the busyness of death starts to kick in. There are funerals to arrange, there are death certificates to be signed, there are documents that have to be taken so that the death is officially registered. And then there are all the things that the other person might have done in the household before, like paying of bills and names of bills and bank accounts. All that is thrown into those first 2 or 3 weeks following the initial death. And so the period where in physical healing cells would start to come and centre around to try to protect, in many ways doesn't happen, although some people find the busyness is helpful. And then there is a much longer phase in physical recovery that starts at about 21 days and goes on for up to 2 years, where then you have to remobilise and learn to walk or do whatever you haven't been able to do again. And to begin with, it may be really, really difficult, and over time it might get easier. But whereas in those after physical trauma or injury, there is a team of medical specialists and therapists around you to take you through some of those phases, that doesn't exist in bereavement unless you request it. And there are some excellent counselling services, but many people don't know how to access them. They don't know if they want to access them. And in my case, I was too intellectually arrogant to think that it would be helpful. And the book and the postscript tell another story, that somewhere around 12 weeks I realised that actually all the intellect in the world doesn't protect you from how you feel. It's something that Peter in his work used to talk about many times, that if there is a conflict between logic and feeling, it doesn't matter how good the logic, if the feelings are too strong, they will always override it. And that's what I needed to discover before I sought out some sort of help for myself. And the process of counselling was not what I feared and not what I expected either. Very little time was spent on my emotional state. What I used it for was someone to go and listen to all the myriad of practical issues that I needed to deal with, which I would normally have shared with him, and there was no one else around to do that. So my counsellor was a tremendous support in helping me deal with the fabric of life. And I think the letters were my way of dealing with the emotional part, which really you need to do on your own. No one else can do it for you or with you. That time frame in physical recovery, that it can take up to 2 years, the Victorians recognised this in the Victorian process of mourning, where there were 3 main phases. It was different for women and men, and that's a whole different issue, we won't go into that. But for women, the period was between 2 and 2.5 years. And in that first year, women from sort of middle or upper classes were expected to wear black crepe material, not to go out, to remain sort of pretty much shuttered within the home. In the second year, some of that could be lessened, so that the clothes that they were wearing, they could wear different fabrics, they could wear dull colours, not necessarily black. And in the final 6 months, they gradually were reintegrated into society. Now, none of us would want to go back to that sort of strict etiquette, if you want to call it that. But I think there were two things that were important. One was the recognition that the process of recovery can take at least 2 years. And the other was that in some ways those widow's weeds provided somebody with a badge that signalled to society that this person was vulnerable and that they might need support and they might need more sensitive handling. Whereas modern British society has no such thing. You go through it, you might have a few weeks off work, and then everybody expects you to go back to normal. Now, certain religious communities and cultural groups are much better at this, and they do wrap a cloak of the community around people, but it's not generally available. And that's where I feel as a society we are failing a whole hidden group of people who are just left to get on with it on their own, really. So in order to carry on their services, they really need a lot more support than is currently provided for them. And recognising this, I asked somebody I know who works within one of the large training hospices in the country, a rural training hospice, what she recognises is needed to continue to support this service. And I'm going to quote her so it's easier to read it, really. So, all hospices must raise different amounts to keep their facilities and care going, but most receive less than 30% of their running costs from the government. The rest must come from the community, and that means like their charity shops, fundraising events, and so on. With demand increasing year on year, more complex neurological illnesses such as MND, multiple sclerosis, ALS, and ataxia are being cared for, not just in terms of end-of-life care, but also in the day services that they offer to those patients and their families. And so costs are rising. The government are well aware of how vital hospices are, but seem to be ignoring the fact that if they are closed, this would be the final nail in the coffin of the NHS, as it couldn't cope under the pressure. Adding to this has been a recent government policy of not exempting hospices from the rise in employer national insurance contributions, meaning that their costs for their excellent staff have actually gone up considerably. Dementia is now also a leading cause of death in the UK. End-of-life care is no longer centred around cancer patients where the prognosis and time left is clearer. Dementia care and support can go on for many months and years. And hospices don't just support the patient, they support the family. So with more interventions and support earlier and ongoing care and access to services for longer periods, hospices will see costs continue to soar. It is unfair of the government, irrespective of who the government is, to turn a blind eye and expect local communities to raise the millions needed to keep their hospice alive. And there must be more support from government. So that's just the sort of state of the hospice service at the moment. I think we've touched on it earlier. It's that process of internalising what was really solid in what you have lost, taking it into yourself and letting it become part of you so that you take that out into the world later. And I call that the love within, that you keep that. And whether you're religious or not, I think it is very close to the concept, a Christian concept of carrying the God within, that each one of us has a part of ourselves that is so much better than all the other flawed pieces. And if we're lucky, that's what we take into ourselves from everyone we've loved in our lives, really. And therefore you don't ever completely lose it. And then, snippets of conversation, funny things, really. There was a taxi driver who, in the years when Peter and I used to do a lot of travelling for lecturing abroad, used to take us to the airport. And I couldn't go for about 18 months when he was ill and for a few months afterwards. And then he picked me up a couple of years later. And I suppose it was about 6 months after that we were talking on the journey. And he said, you know, you do not owe Peter life. And I thought, that's a very strange thing to say. And then I thought about it afterwards, and particularly in the context of the big age difference between us. And I thought, well, yes, he'd had, you know, many years of life before he and I met. And actually there is no reason why I shouldn't continue to have that number of years afterwards. And it was almost like a setting free, saying, you know, you can do this. You're not abandoning somebody because you choose to make the best of the life that you have left, because we are here for a reason, presumably, and we shouldn't waste it.
And they'd be happy for you.
I hope so. That it will get better, and that also what you are going through is normal. I think the thing I found hardest was I wondered if my sense of aloneness was peculiar to me, that there was something wrong with me that I felt as I did. And the more I have come across other people who've lost somebody, when I read C.S. Lewis's little book, A Grief Observed, this is actually a natural part of the grieving process. And it won't last forever. It will get better. It comes in little snatches and then it recedes and then it gets a little bit bigger, the better bit part. And it is a process. And don't be afraid of seeking and asking for help if you need it. The difficulty is often not knowing that it's there and how to access things. I would say the how of all of this is perhaps the hardest part. And while we're on C.S. Lewis, you know, he's so well known for all his children's books that not so many people know that he wrote some wonderful books on his personal conversion to Christianity, something called the Screw Tape Letters, which was letters from a senior devil to a junior devil about how best to tempt humankind from the right path. And it's very funny, it's very clever and it's very funny. But after he lost his wife, he wrote this little book, A Grief Observed. And it starts off that nobody told me that grief feels so much like fear. And I would say he was exactly right. The feelings that you get when you're very afraid of something is how grief feels. But it doesn't stay with you forever. And he also said that when we suffer, we grow. That none of us would go and seek suffering. But what suffering does teach us to do, if we are able to overcome it, is to change our life patterns, is to realize that you cannot stay as you have been in those comfortable places forever, and that you have to go out and try to do new things. And I would say the hardest thing to do is trying the new things to begin with, because you feel invisible. You feel, how do I break into this new group? I described it as being like, either like your first day at school, or even worse, your first date when you're an adolescent, and you don't feel you know the language, the tools, the codes of behaviour, and it's like starting all over again. But if you can do that just once, you will find that that life reclaiming you starts to take place, and that you can look back in a few years' time and you may always miss that person, but you are different.